Hey everybody, what's happened? Welcome back to another episode on Surfside Fishing. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. This has to do a lot with the boat itself, actually more along the lines of the propulsion. Now, at the end of last season, I noticed that we had some cooling problems. We had changed the water pump, the housing, all the bushings. Actually, let me flip around and show you what I did here. Water pump was replaced, housing, bushings, and on this side, the water jacket, I ripped that off, tore it off, cleaned out all the ports, jetted it out, and also took off this guy here. This is the head, top of the heads there. I looked at that, made sure that was cool, and there were no issues. So really the problem is I'm not getting any water from the pump. Well, I'm getting very little water from the pump up to the water jacket via the water pump. So what I got to do, the last resort here is I'm going to have to take this entire power head off the motor, and to do that, in the next video I'm going to rip it apart. But this one here, fuel pump will be disconnected. The choke will come apart. I will have to take some linkage off for the throttle, and I'll have to take apart remove the actual recall starter. Those will all be in the way. I have 2 bolts down there, 2 bolts down here, and 2 underneath I got to take apart, and then the whole thing should come out. Now, what I should find on top is, on the top of the foot, bottom of the motor, there's 2 ports, there's 2 jets where the water comes up from the water pump and circulates through the necessary ports inside the water jacket and then out through the telltale. My telltale is shooting steam, so it tells me that something is not getting enough water. Whatever water is getting is boiling and not doing its proper job. So when I take this off, I should be able to see 2 clogged holes and quite possibly a bushing for the intake tube that comes up to the bottom of the motor. That could have a bushing on it that got crimped over. I've also heard that salt water corrodes those over time. It's kind of a baked-in design failure on Evinrude's behalf back in 1980 when they designed this motor originally. But so that's really what I'm going to do. Otherwise, the rest of the boat is in tip-top shape. It's been out twice via the trolling motor, but if you missed the video on those on that rebuild, that demo and that rebuild, I'll share a link down below in the description. And that's it. So tune back in next time for the teardown portion of this motor and the rebuild. So hopefully that remedies our cooling issue and we can get this bad boy out on the water full speed. All right, see you later. Alright, so previously I have removed all 6 bolts from the bottom, the 3 bolts that are on top. I pulled out the choke, the idle. I've also disconnected the reverse and forward controls. Fuel pumps here. What else did I do here? The linkage for the throttle has also been removed. I probably did it overkill by removing these 2 bolts in the front. I might replace those before I pull everything out. But I also went down here and got a chisel in between the bottom of the motor, the lower unit, and the manifold, which there's a big heavy gasket in there that needed to be broken by a chisel. Big important tool called the chisel. So now full disclaimer, this is the first time I'm doing this, so I'm just going to pull this bad boy out, and then we're going to investigate and see what's underneath this bad boy, which is holding up my water flow and making my motor too hot to touch. So let's get this tripod mounted, and we will pop this bad boy out. Let's hope I don't break anything. Let's go. And then we'll bring it over to the bench and we'll see what's up. Oh boy, I'm scared. Oh boy, I'm scared. Oh boy. Okay, so I have to cut this wire, apparently. Or I will just get a 7/16 open end and pop that off. Alright? You can see what's going on here. This is the shut-off, the kill switch, which I didn't disconnect. So now I have a whole issue of trying to get that off. I'll lay this down gingerly and I will come back. Okay, so power head is out. It's over here on the bench. I had to cut one wire, which is no big deal. I can splice that back together. But so now we got to remove these 4 bolts, and this here is the drive, which I'm not too concerned about. I can wire brush this, clean that up a little bit. I'll replace this gasket when it's time to reinstall. But my real concern is here behind these 4 bolts, and I can see if I have to jet it out and make sure everything is clean. It doesn't look too bad down here, but and also here on the housing itself looks pretty clean. Nothing too bad, nothing suspect. Needs a little bit of wiping out and cleaning, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and remove those 4 bolts and then see what's beyond that. All right. Okay, so I failed to explain before what this copper tube here is. This 3/8 copper tube. This is our intake from our water pump that's down at the bottom of the foot. Now, if you can see, just look there. Top of that union there is totally covered over with salt and corrosion, and that's the import there. It's also encrusted in salt. So even though a couple months ago when I was having these issues with cooling, I ran a whole vinegar bath, basically a 5 parts per million vinegar, white vinegar bath, and just ran this motor so it would break down some of the salt, and it did not work. So let that be a lesson. So here you go. That's our issue right there and right here. So once I get this all cleaned out and reassembled, we should have no problems with cooling. So I'm going to go ahead and get all this cleaned up, and of course that plowed out and done with. Regasket everything, reassemble, and then we'll put this thing into put it back together, put it in the garbage can, and run it, and run it, and run it, and run it, and it should be good. I am elated that this is probably the only problem I have. So, okay, we'll catch back up. Alright, so we're all back together. Everything went back fairly simple for a first time. Everything's back where it should be. Everything spins. I'm going to let this water fill up here and give it a shot. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I get some water out of that pee hole, weep hole, telltale, whatever you want to call it. So fingers crossed. Stand by. Well, we have success. Successfully removed the motor and got the weep hole moving.